Howdy, everybody. Welcome to the Profit Pals podcast. This is our inaugural our episode. We're going to get started just by letting you know a little bit about us and where we think the podcast is going to go. Just two bookkeepers that like to shoot the breeze, talk about business, and just have a good time on Friday afternoons on Zoom. So, Wesley, welcome.
Hey, Chip.
It's good to see you.
Always good to see you.
Absolutely. And now that we actually record, we gotta, learn how this part works. So, but yeah, let's jump in a little bit. Yeah, tell me a little bit about your business, Breathe Easy Bookkeeping, and yeah, the types of clients you serve. A little bit about yourself.
Sure. Hey guys, I'm Wesley Herman with Breathe Easy Bookkeeping, and this time of year we're having a lot of fun. It is 1099 time for all of those of you that are not in the bookkeeping world. By the end of January, we try to get all of our 1099s out. So that is one thing that I specialize in the services that I offer people. I like to do all of their 1099 tracking and filing every single year. And mostly what makes my business a little bit unique is I really do try to make all of the business owners feel like they can just almost completely take their hands off of the bookkeeping process. I think that's what most of us want to do, but that's where I try to live up to my name, Breathe Easy Bookkeeping. And I try to make bookkeeping more enjoyable for people in the sense that when we sit down and we get to talk about what's going on in their books every single month, it's a lot more pleasant to know that you've got someone in your corner who is just taking care of all the numbers, categorizing everything correctly, reconciling those numbers to make sure that they are as accurate as possible so that when you get to tax time, you already kind of have a really good idea of what to expect. So we primarily at Breathe Easy Bookkeeping want to help mental health professionals. So if you are a psychiatrist, psychologist, counselor, someone who works in that vein of the business industry, you are our bread and butter. We really want to help you be successful. But that being said, we can help just about everybody else too. That's just the direction that we've kind of gone over time. Excuse me. So yeah, that's about it for now. I'm sure everybody's going to get to know me and you a lot better, but for now, we'll just leave it there. Chip, what about you?
Yeah, I'm Chip Mitchell. I'm the owner of Ensemble Bookkeeping. We are a outsourced bookkeeper that we like to help business owners to really have an idea of what their numbers are telling them and to rest easy at night and just not be stressed out by their financials, by their accounting. You business owners went into business to provide a service, to have a certain lifestyle. Very few business owners go into business to like, I want to do QuickBooks all night long, or make sure everything's, in correctly on Fridays so that all my employees get paid, and the bills go out and all that. Like, that's not why people got into the business. And I think it's good to have a team, have an ensemble around you that can handle those things. And so we like you, we serve all kinds of business owners. Every time I think I'm going to niche in this one thing, I'm like, oh, I just think that's going to drive me crazy. So my brain needs lots of different things, but we do like to specialize in a few different areas. And we've got several clients in a few areas, and so that's our marketing focus moving forward. Fence companies. We help with fence companies that have inventory issues and things like that. It's a great client for us. We serve nonprofits. I've got a long history in working with nonprofits, and home care companies. So three kind of unrelated things, but I had owned home care companies in the past, so we have some interesting things that we can bring and some unique insight in those three areas, just because of my personal experience and that we've helped to serve other clients. We've seen their pain points, been able to help solve them, and really can provide a lot of value to those clients. So
Awesome. Well, I love hearing that there are other bookkeeping firm owners that are trying to bring the same quality that I'm trying to bring to my practice. Because I think a lot of people out there probably have been burned by different financial professionals in the past. I mean, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I hear it all the time in our industry whenever I'm talking to new business owners that, hey, I had this CPA. They used to do all of my accounting, including my bookkeeping, and I just couldn't get them to pick up the phone, you
Hmm.
know? And I think that's like the worst experience. And that's one of the big things that I think that you and I probably both try to differentiate ourselves by. And for everyone out there listening, that is definitely not a good sign. If you're working with an accountant or a bookkeeper and you can't get them to pick up the phone, then I'm telling you right now, you need to be shopping around for some other people, because if you can't get them to call you back in, like, let's just say 48 hours, I feel like that's pretty much about the longest that you would want to wait, because they can still pick up the phone and say, hey, so and so, I'm just very busy right now. I saw that you had that question for me, and I just want to let you know you're on my radar. Just to be able to let your clients know that, hey, I see you there and I have
Right.
not forgotten about you. Because if they're not telling you that, then there's a really good chance that they are already not just ignoring you, but ignoring the work that they're supposed to be doing for you. So,
Yeah.
just a little pro tip, look
Sure.
out for them.
Yeah. And picking up on something, um, we work with CPAs all day long. Like we don't do taxes. We turn that over, let the CPAs
Mm-hmm.
handle all the tax stuff. But clients having financial questions or like, why is this like this? Or why I have a question on this. When they try to call their CPA, the CPA may answer an occasional question and not bill them. If they're calling on any kind of regular basis or anything the CPA's got to do more, has to think or spend time on, like there's a bill coming. And
Yeah.
so, one of the benefits of the way that I've set up my business is, it's a monthly fee, and you can reach out as much as you want, and we'll answer all your questions. Now, if you're asking 2 hours worth of questions every single week, then we may have another talk. But for the most people, when you first come on, you may have more. There may be cleanup. You're learning systems. You're learning how to do it. But as we build trust and rapport, most clients are able to use your breathe easy. It's they're able to take a breath and not have to worry like, oh, this is a cluster that I'm dealing with every time I get into my books. So that's good. And also with the CPAs, we pick up a lot of clients who kind of use that CPA that was doing the bookkeeping and the taxes and everything, but they just weren't getting the answers of how is my business doing. The CPA, I have yet to really meet a CPA that enjoys doing bookkeeping. Like most of the time, I'm a bookkeeper. I'm introducing myself to a CPA, and they're like, "Oh, bless you, I hate doing bookkeeping." And I mean, there's a different way. What I'm not, and not to paint too broad a brush, but a lot of times they're just thinking about your tax return at the end of the year, and they're looking very broad categories, and not the numbers. The final report's going to, pretty much be the same, but to be able to drill in and get any kind of detail, you're not going to necessarily know as much about how your business is actually doing. Or if you're like, how is this service like really performing? I've got, this person working here and we use these materials on this job, and that's usually a little more than your CPA is going to do, because if they're doing your bookkeeping. And so I think that's where hiring a bookkeeper whose sole job is bookkeeping and that's all they want to do, can really be beneficial for a business.
Right. So, I mean, I'm like you. I work off of the value pricing model.
Hmm.
So you're paying me for the month, and however many times you want to contact me during that month, I'm here for you. And sort of
Hmm.
like you, it's like within reason. It's like I think people can understand, like, hey,
Yeah,
if you were taking several hours out of my day once per week, twice per week,
yeah,
at the beginning, that's sort of to be expected, because we're
exactly.
getting to know each other, we're getting to know these new processes of working together.
Hmm.
Totally makes sense. But when we get to like month two, month three, that should start to slow down a little bit, and I think the expectations that our clients should have when working with a professional bookkeeper on this type of value price model is that you should probably only feel like you need to reach out to them maybe 2 times per month, where you might want to schedule a meeting and find something out. But once you start to get a really good handle, because we'll be having monthly conversations about what's going on in your books. And once you kind of get behind the way that that works, I think most people just settle for one time a month. They're just happy to get the nice little, 30-minute breakdown of what's going on in their books.
Yeah.
So I think that is something that we definitely are bringing to our clients and helping make their bookkeeping process a lot smoother. Like you were saying, we work with a lot of different CPAs, and sort of the information that I get from them all the time is the same as you, that they don't really enjoy doing the bookkeeping or they don't
Hmm.
want to do the bookkeeping. And I
Right.
think that that's sort of where the industry of accounting is right now,
Hmm.
which is a lot of CPA offices, if not most. It feels like most from the people that I've spoken to, that they are trying to mostly offboard their bookkeeping
Hmm.
side of their firms because they just want to focus on the tax side. They would rather streamline everything that they do with taxes so that the people who only focus on bookkeeping can, do what they do best. And they know that their clients are being very well taken care of. Because
Right.
at the end of the day, it's sort of a little bit of a misnomer to our clients, to just have their accountant cover their bookkeeping if they're not getting a lot of follow up on what those numbers are telling them.
Hmm.
Some clients out there might be a little bit more seasoned than others, and they can look at a balance sheet and a profit and loss and a cash flow statement, and they can make sense of it pretty quick, and they can run with that. That's great. But most people aren't doing that. Most
Yeah.
people are just looking at their bank accounts and they're saying,
Hmm.
hey, if that number is going up, then I guess I'm doing something right. And to a degree, yeah, you're probably doing something right. Your bank account is going up, but could you be doing more right? Is there something that you might not be doing right and that bank account is not going up as high as it could be? Do you
Yeah.
have, you know, subscriptions that you didn't realize that you still had for your business for that one time you got that business software? Well, if you're not drilling down into your bank statements and looking at every single transaction every single month and making sure that there aren't any negative trends, you're not going to spot those things.
Hmm.
So that's one of the things that we bring to the table, as being diligent bookkeepers. We make sure that we are catching those things whenever they happen. And then, I mean, the other thing is just, you know, I think we should put this out in the open really quick, is that bookkeeping in and of itself does not move the needle on your profitability.
Yeah.
But the mindset that I think business owners should have if they're trying to grow their business is that proactive guidance about what their numbers are telling them from good bookkeeping absolutely can move the needle on profitability. So if you're someone out there and you're thinking, I don't want to hire a bookkeeper because that's going to cost me, a few $100s, and that's a few $100s more that I could have gone out and bought my kid that new toy. Well,
Hmm.
let me tell you this. You are paying us a few extra $100. And the goal here is that we're helping you save not only a few extra $100, but generate hundreds, if not thousands of more dollars from our guidance. So it really is kind of an investment. I say kind of, it's not kind of, it's an investment.
Right.
Um, and even if it's not something that is generating, thousands of dollars, it is still something that we're all supposed to be doing. As business owners, everyone is required by law to keep up with their books. And at the end of the day, do you want a set of books that you think might be correct, or do you want your books, the history of the numbers of your business, to be as accurate as possible, not only for your accountant, but for your peace of mind, to know that you understand where your business is at and where it's headed?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it can be, um, thinking back through some of my clients, and a conversation I recently had. I've got a client. they're doing close to $2 million, a year in sales. They carry about 40 grand in credit card debt at like it's 25, 30% interest. But they've had like four times that in the bank at all times for at least probably the last 18 months, 2 years. And it's a, common thing that I, keep sharing with them. They're like, they're scared, like they've had cash flow problems in the past. And so they're like, no, I want a cushion. At the end of the day, they're still the business owner and they're going to spend their
Hmm.
money however. But, it's a conversation that I raise, not in a nagging way or anything else, but it's like, hey, more than you pay me, you could save, in just pay that off, or pay down a chunk.
Yeah.
So every quarter, let's pay 10 grand extra and knock that out. And like, you're going to save a ton of money. I had another client that was, you know, wildly, profitable and was having close to $1 million just sitting in a checking account. And it's like,
Ooh,
hey, that is a great problem to have. But I'm like, even
put
just
that money to work.
a CD, is going to pay, huge dividends compared to just sitting it in a checking account. And a lot of times, those business owners are busy running their business. They need to make sure payroll's met. They need to onboard new clients. They need to
Hmm.
onboard new employees. And they're not looking at these things. And all of a sudden, I can put an extra 50 grand in their pocket just by saying, "Hey, you can handle this. Here's an idea. Try this. This is my recommendation." Without, I think there's I don't want to. I have a word that I use, but it might be it's not a negative word for other people, but it might get, now that we're recording, I won't say it. So I'm gonna self-censor myself. But somebody that just nags, like on the message boards that we're a part of, some are like, well, I tell my clients you can't do this and you can't do that. And I'm having come to bookkeeping as a business owner versus as starting out as a bookkeeper that started a business, but actually kind of running several businesses before that. Like, I don't do good if people tell me what to do. Like, you can suggest, we can have a conversation. Like, I'll take that. And I love hearing lots of different ideas and opinions. But, somebody that's like scolding you, you need to do this and you should do it and you can't, like, that doesn't fly with me. And so, like, I'm not that person with my clients, but I'll all day long say, hey, have you thought about this? Hey, here's a way you can, really save here. You're really spending too much here. That's something you may see too, that because we do have several clients in different industries, you start to see like, wow, you're paying way too much for your payroll costs, or you're paying a lot, you're really doing a lot more in marketing, or you're not. Like, that's a thing that I'll bring up too. Like, hey, you're spending like 2% on marketing. All the other people in your industry are spending 20%, and they're bringing in multi-millions and you're bringing in, way less than that. Like, you might really want to, you're not spending enough in this area. It's not just about cut, cut, cut. It's also, hey, here's a place you might want to look. You're under the industry average on in this area. Um,
Yeah.
so
And that's the funny thing is I often find myself sort of counseling clients on things that I think that they can do better in their business. And I know that that's not, it's not necessarily bookkeeping, but being a business owner myself
mhm.
and knowing some of the things that I've seen work and not work, I see a lot of the pitfalls that, good people who have great intentions of running great businesses fall
Mhm.
into. And one of those is their processes. They will get kind of caught up in the monotony of doing their work. Like, for example, um, an electrician. An electrician might be finding themselves kind of overworked because
Mhm.
there's so much work out there for an electrician to be able to get to. So maybe they're just going from request to request to request. And, then they get to the end of the month and they say, oh, well, I just paid all of my expenses. Now I got to pay Wes, the bookkeeper. And I feel like I just didn't really have that much money left over in my pocket.
Mhm.
So, what problem did we just run into here? Well, what I would say the problem was is that if he is feeling like his cash flow is low at the end of the month and he has been working pretty much the entire time, sounds like it is time to work on evolving those processes and to upgrade your team. So you need to probably increase your marketing to go ahead and get that marketing engine rolling, because it takes some time to really get it moving.
Hmm.
um, but now we can talk about you bringing in an apprentice,
Hmm.
someone else that's helping you do the work. Not only will this decrease your workflow, I mean your workload, but it should also increase your profits by 10%, 15%, if not more. I
Yeah.
usually try to get them to aim for 30%,
Hmm.
but I mean that's what I'm talking about. Is when you're a new business owner for the first time, you might not see the possibilities that exist past where you've currently gotten.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that we bring to the table, is because when we're looking at your numbers and then we're looking at your financial statements, a lot of what our brains click into just sort of naturally, because of the ways that we're having to think about someone's business, is very like big picture.
Hmm.
And if you're not looking at your numbers in that way often, you can definitely find yourself sort of stuck in the rut of whatever your job is kind of, pushing you into. And you can, definitely run the risk of going into like burnout mode and not feeling like you're able to kind of evolve anything else in your business. So anyways, I digress. I'm just saying
Hmm.
processes are definitely an important thing to always be thinking about in your business, because processes are something where it's like, okay, I've got a good process for doing this thing. I know that in 2 months time, based off of the process that I wrote out, that is when I'm going to, make the jump to this next process. um, those are really great things, and it's awesome to think that way, but also important to be flexible. Be
Yeah.
ready to change those processes, because things are going to change in your business. The world around us is not stagnant.
Yep.
Our economy in the US is constantly changing for different reasons. And so if you want to be around in the next 10 years and have a successful business, you got to kind of be ready to pivot with it.
Yeah. And even just thinking through some of my clients and the conversations I've had, one thing that's nice having a bookkeeper that's a trusted, you know, professional, is they're seeing all the numbers. They're, you can talk to your buddy, you can talk to somebody else, and like, yeah, business is going great. Like you run into those people and you talk to them and they're like, yep, everything's always good or it's always bad. Like we actually see the numbers and can know. Like, um, I know as when I would, had my home care business before, and I had outsourced bookkeeping for a while. I brought it in house for a while. But when things were going good, numbers wise, I was all in my books and looking like, yeah, that numbers are going up. That's good. And when I knew like, oh, we just lost some clients, things are going bad. It's like I'll let my books get, months behind because I'm like, I just don't want to see it. I'll have to deal with it. But it's nice having somebody that you trust in there on a regular basis, staying on top of it, and giving you actual advice because they're seeing what you're taking home, um, and it's not like I had a client who was like, I really want to do this, but my mother-in-law just really wants to be my bookkeeper, and I was like, I mean, you can go for that, but do you want your mother-in-law knowing every single thing about your business? And it's like, well, he
Hey,
made
I
this
love my
much and got
mom.
me this present, or he didn't treat my wife right, or he didn't, I was like,
Yeah.
that's one. It's like I would like an outside, even like some people are like, oh, I'm an office manager. They'll handle all that. And I'm kind of like, it's good to have another set of eyes. It's good to have an outsourced, we're
Yeah.
as bookkeepers, we're licensed. We have, we're not licensed. Sorry, we're insured. If something goes wrong, I mean, not probably. I live in kind of a small town, but 3, 4 times a year, you'll see a headline: someone got arrested because the business owner trusted an employee and they embezzled 80 grand, 100 grand,
Yeah.
200 grand,
You do hear
and
that.
and having personal experience with some organizations where stuff like that happened, not under my watch, but I was there and know around. Um, like those people didn't like go invest it and it's sitting in a CD making money. Like they spent that $200,000 and they have no money left to their name and you're not getting it back. And it's like, well, I saved $100 by doing that instead of, and I think it's just a short-sighted, thing to say, to have another outside set of eyes just checking everything and raising. I've had clients now, and I'm
Mhm.
like, something's not right. And being able to go to the owner, like, just look at this. This is not, I can't tell you exactly what's going on, but something doesn't add up. And, you know, it's peace of mind to know that somebody else is watching, um, and looking for those vulnerabilities.
Yeah, absolutely. That kind of brings up the topic of fraud in our industry.
Mm-hmm.
And historically, bookkeepers, accountants, and their place in fraud is usually, them taking money directly out of the client's bank account and kind of posing that in the books as if it were some legitimate expense,
Mm-hmm.
or like asset allocation transfer, something like that.
Right.
So that's historically sort of what the fraud has looked like in our industry. But I would love to remind people here right now that fraud is evolving in our industry right now. And if you don't have cyber insurance in your business, I would highly suggest that you reach out to some cyber insurance individuals and just find out a little bit more about that, because what I am seeing is much higher levels of sophistication of these campaigns from scammers that are using different forms of AI to really take business owners on a wild ride.
Yeah.
In the past, it was like you could see an email and you would say, "Oh, look at that grammar. That is definitely not coming from someone in the US.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like it's been copy pasted as a picture. The whole thing is a picture
Mm-hmm.
that you can click. Those things were like really obvious, and of course, we still get some of those. Those phishing emails are very easy to spot, but now amongst them are some phishing emails that are not easy to spot because we've got language AI that is making it to where someone could have not gone to school until third grade or graduated at the end of third grade.
Yeah.
And they say, AI, make it a good scam. And
Yeah.
boom, they've got a nice little thing that they can send in an email and they can get some people on the hook.
Yeah.
I'm not going to name names or anything like that, but I'm just going to say that I have seen people have come to me in the past, present, and probably will in the future. And I have seen people lose a lot of money to some of these more sophisticated scams that are popping up. And when I say a lot of money, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So please be vigilant out there. It's not the same way that it was even 5 years ago. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to, scare people or make a sell for like any particular cyber insurance dealer. Maybe we'll have one of them on here in the future and we can interview them and
Yeah.
help our audience learn a little bit more about the atmosphere out there right now.
Mm-hmm.
But if cyber insurance is not something that people had on their radar for their business, I would tell them to look into it at this point. It's not that much of an extra expense. And you just have to keep in mind that there are certain things that you have to do to make sure that that cyber insurance policy stays, compliant so that you're covered. And I won't go obviously too into that because I'm not a cyber insurance dealer.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, I digress again.
Yeah. No, and to touch on that point, the fraud, we need to I've got so many good stories where I'm close to, like, we had a church secretary embezzle $80,000 from my church. I can go an hour on that. I was the treasurer of a foundation where the founder was pretty much it was, I'll graciously say, extremely poor accounting practices. Maybe something else. It's one of those that he's passed away, so it's not something that I have to worry as much about. But but no, I have several stories. But getting back to cyber insurance, the thing that gets me like, oh, it won't happen, something like that. But if you've probably got them. I get, one a month that feels like where it's like your information was released in a breach at this medical
Mm-hmm.
office, at this financial institution, at something. And so part of the law and part of what that cyber insurance covers is like maybe something happened, maybe money was actually taken, probably it wasn't. But if you have any breach like that, there's so much expense that happens. There's security experts that you have to bring in. You have to mail and notify everybody, so your client base, maybe you've served hundreds of clients over the years. All of a sudden somebody got into your internal, system, like at that point you're having to notify all of them, you're having to pay for their ongoing monitoring, stuff like that. And like without that cyber insurance, that's enough. Like even if nothing bad happened, it's enough to bankrupt a lot of businesses just in the compliance costs you have to go to after it. So it's really a keep your doors open almost type of policy now. But
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I think we've got I think you use the same insurance agent I do for bookkeeping. So we might have him on in the future
Mm-hmm.
that specializes in that in the bookkeeping industry. But I've got other insurance people that I know that sell it and speak knowledgeably. But I think that's a great, um, yeah, just and that's kind of part of our job as well in this side. It's not necessarily what you pay for, but as we're having these conversations with our clients, like, hey, what kind of coverage do you have? Do you have this? Do you have that? Those are questions that, I
Yeah.
usually ask in my practice just to say, hey, you should look at this. And I've got a guy if you need a guy. Because business owners are all, come from different places, and some are like, yes, if you've got somebody you trust, please. I can give lots of referrals to great providers. And others are like, nope, I got a guy for everything, but I'll ask them and add it on. Like as long as you get it, I don't care, who
Yeah.
you use. But
We should compare the questions that we ask our prospective clients
yeah.
at the beginning one of these days, just to kind of see, you know, if you or myself have any additional questions that we can,
Mm-hmm.
gain that insight on, because I think that is one of the things that we bring to the table. And this is again just one of those things that a lot of people don't think about when they're considering who's doing the books for them is, you know, we are really good at seeing the patterns
Mm-hmm.
and lack thereof. Like if I have one client or two clients and they're both investing in cyber insurance, we've created an account for that as a type of insurance in their chart of accounts, meaning that is a line that you're now going to see pop up on their profit and loss sheet. It's going to say cyber insurance, maybe
Mm-hmm.
under a parent category of insurance. And if I see that, two of my best clients are using that, and I just got you as a prospective client, and that's not in your books, well, there's a pattern there. Let's
Mm-hmm.
talk about that. Why are they doing it and why are you not doing it? And
Yeah.
what are the potential benefits? So I don't know. I think at the end of the day, we bring a lot of value that is sort of hidden value, because you don't have a lot. I mean, with what we do, we're not out there making millions. I mean, there might be people in our industry that are doing that. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure I know that there are some that are. But anyways,
Yeah.
like most of
At
us
least in
aren't.
sales. I don't know if they're pocketing
We're
that,
not
but they're yeah.
but we're not marketing to our clients by creating these like TV commercials or anything that is like really getting out there and breaking its way into you know, the main sphere of everybody. So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, the information of like what we bring to the table and those hidden values, most people wouldn't know it unless you were working directly with us. So
Mm-hmm.
hopefully on our podcast, we can help people to learn a little bit more about what it is we do as bookkeepers and what sort of differentiates us as an industry by itself from just the world of accounting, and why it makes a lot of sense to talk to a professional bookkeeper, even if at the end of the day you want your mom to do it or you want that office assistant to do it. It can still probably benefit you to know what a professional bookkeeper can do, so that if you run up to those limitations of any of those people working in your office, or you at least know some of the right questions to ask, so that maybe you can refer to a professional bookkeeper for some advice.
Yeah.
At the end, and that's what I try to tell people too. It's like not always the right time for them to work with me. A lot of new
Hmm.
businesses, I like to help get them set up on the right path. And so like what we'll do is we'll say, hey, this is your industry. So based off that, we're going to create this nice chart of accounts specifically for your industry, so that when you take on the bookkeeping responsibilities for the next 6 months to a year, while you're growing to a point where you feel like you can maybe justify a bookkeeper, you're
Hmm.
going to feel like these things are pretty intuitive, and I can categorize this because Wes told me to always categorize this like that. And I've told them, and you can pick up the phone and call me whenever you want if you have questions along the way. Now, when it's that same conversation of, again, now, if you're calling me 12 times a month, you may as well just hire me.
Right. Right.
but for a lot of people, it's just about helping them dip their feet into doing things the right way. Because when you're first starting out, it's not usually, 50 transactions, 100 transactions per
Hmm.
month. Like that doesn't usually start out right away. So it's like any kind of problem that they can step into, even
Hmm.
over like a year's worth of time, they can come to us and we can be like, okay, $500 and we will fix that year of some of the stuff that you did not do correctly.
Right.
but hopefully, we're just trying to gain that respect over time and help people realize that, like, we're not out here to try to take people for all their money. Like
Hmm.
that's not the point of what we do. Of course, we're all trying to make a good living for ourselves, but I think most of us in the professional bookkeeping industry that are doing it the right way are trying to create fair value for how much money. I mean, not how much money, how much time
Right.
we are looking at their numbers, and how much deep thought we are actually putting into the direction of their business, and trying to make that process of bookkeeping easier for them.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that that's kind of the message that I want to get across in this podcast, and so I'll probably continue to go back to that over time. Um, but yeah, I don't know if is that something that you sort of feel the same way about, as far as like what the mission is?
Yeah, kind of the podcast. Um I think it's just to help empower business owners to there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of things that you don't know. It was the old Donald Rumsfeld quotes. There's no knowns, unknown unknowns, known unknowns, unknown knowns, or something. He said it better. But it's like there's things you don't know that you don't know. And there's things you do know that you don't know. And I think that's where having a team in place, where it's not, hey, I hired this person in my office and they're just gonna do the books and I'll supervise them, but I don't really know what it's supposed to look like or how to help them, can go south. So, having something like this where we can shed light and just talk about things business owners need to know, whether they use this or not, I think is part of it. We're both in different networking groups and have met some really talented professionals that are great experts in the insurance, in the tax world, in marketing, and all these other things. I think that's a part of this podcast is having guests come on in those areas to talk more in depth about here's how to use Google to do AdWords, or here's your insurance needs, things like that, where we can let the people that we know and trust shine as well. And then potentially even some of our clients, to come on. And I've got some great clients in different areas that are doing great things. And it's a platform they can come on and share what they're doing, and we can talk as much about their business as they care to share on a podcast that's broadcast out to other people. So uh
Right. So our goal is to hopefully make this entertaining. We want to, bring on people from all sorts of different industries just to, give people a nice little slice of life of every single industry that we can kind of get our hands on. And I think one of the things that we'll constantly be asking is sort of in the name of our podcast, Profit Pals Podcast. We want to ask all these people in these different industries, hey, what is it about your industry that generates profit? How do you do that? Like, let's learn a little bit about how you do it. So it's going to be a lot of that. And then, we'll be talking a lot about, what we do individually as bookkeeping firm owners, because that is something that I think is really one of the biggest missions in what it is that I am doing in life right now, which is like educating business owners about financial management, just period.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it's something that we're not often taught in school. Maybe there's a basic level of financial management education that is happening, but it's very low level. And it's like how we were talking about at the very beginning of this podcast, you having clients that just have, let's say you've got an extra $20,000 just sitting in that operations checking account every single month.
Mm-hmm.
What could you be doing with that extra 20,000? Like, if you know that you've always got an extra $20,000,
Mm-hmm.
you've got enough cash flow every single month, and you still always got that extra 20,000, put that 20,000 into a savings account with a 5% yield.
Yeah.
And congratulations, you've got $1,000 at the end of the year to go buy Christmas presents.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't have happened if you didn't move it over into that right thing. So that's really what I want people to understand. And it's going to be great having people on here and asking them questions about, like, what would you guys like to try and understand more? Because I think a lot of what we run into is we're both the type of thinkers where we kind of constantly go down rabbit holes of trying to understand financial management strategies and, like, what are the unique strategies that exist out there that can help benefit me personally. And a lot of times we'll get so deep into that research that, like, we don't remember where we even started.
Right.
We know all of these things, but we have trouble maybe sometimes connecting to what everybody else knows.
Mm-hmm.
So I think something that we can continue to help people out with here is, asking the right questions and making sure that we're not leaving people behind on some of the things that are just rattling around in our brains that we just need to
Yeah.
bring out.
Yeah. And it's fun too, like things that will pop up in the news. So we're kind of past it now, but like the BOI reporting
Mm-hmm.
was a topic kind of all of 2024. It's coming, now it's on hold, and now it's back on, now it's on hold again, and now it's still on hold, but nope, it's back, but now it's on hold. And should you do it? And should you pay somebody? And like I think
Yeah.
those things that come up in the news that affect the business owner and have some kind of financial angle to it, I think are fun to discuss and get into. And it's kind of nice that we're not tax experts. We are not legal experts. And we can kind of put that caveat like ask your lawyer, ask your tax professional, but hey, these two business owners that are, really good bookkeepers, here's our take. It's not an expert, it's
Right.
an educated opinion, but I think that is
Right.
a useful voice, we can add to the
So
mix. So
yeah, and it's like on that same vein of thinking, it's like I'm a bookkeeper here in Texas,
mm-hmm,
and I have helped so many smart business owners who didn't understand the process of starting their business
mm-hmm,
get their businesses off the ground. And when I say help them get their businesses off the ground, I mean I created like a lovely little like Google Doc where it's like 12 different steps of go to this website, the Secretary of State. This is how you're going to file your LLC. Yes, you need an LLC for what it is you're trying to do. What's that? You're already making $120,000 and a reasonable salary in your industry is 50,000. I'm going to recommend that you go S Corp.
right,
And the funny thing is, like, yeah, no, I'm not a business attorney, but
yeah,
man, I have seen firsthand so much of the experience that makes you understand these things. So at the end of the day, we're more than just bookkeepers. We know quite a bit, and that's why I want to have people on this podcast and be asking them all the questions of what it is that they need,
Hmm.
because I think we know more than we even realize sometimes. And that's not to like toot our own horns. It's just to say that, hey, we've been doing this, you know, for 6 to 8 years at least, and
Hmm.
we've watched the industry of bookkeeping evolve into what it is right now. But through the process of helping so many business owners, we've learned so much about how to start businesses in different places, what different maybe sales tax filing situations look like in so many different states.
Hmm.
Awesome software for letting people do that for you. Um, I think both Chip and myself don't really specialize in doing payroll, but
Yeah.
boy, do we have experience with the best people that do.
Hmm.
And we can make sure that we're giving our clients the best chance of not losing sleep because their payroll was not handled correctly. Cough, cough, don't let QuickBooks do your payroll.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, at the end of the day, it's like those are the little experience tidbits that we're bringing to the table here. And hopefully, we are helping people not fall into the same pitfalls, the same traps that we see other business owners fall into, or maybe that we've stumbled into along the way. So, if we can bring some of that insight, I will be a happy camper. And then at the very least, I get to hang out with the lovely Chip Mitchell
Yeah.
for, an hour or so on Fridays.
Yeah. I think kind of to wrap up, I've got a hard out in about 10 minutes, but I think talking about how we got to know each other was we were at a conference and a training that kind of happened close
Mm-hmm.
to each other. And sat at the same lunch table and like, oh, okay, yeah, we kind of vibe and connected and kept talking. And I think that's kind of the idea. We had the idea for the podcast is like when you go and most business owners go to some kind of convention, they have some kind of networking within their industry, but you find other people and you sit at a table, and sometimes the best part of it isn't what the speaker said on the stage. It's, oh, I sat next to this person, they said, hey, we tried this thing and it really worked, or yeah, I hate this new software they're giving us, or whatever it is. Like that's the key takeaways that you come back a lot of times from a conference with. And it's like, okay, let's see if can that kind of be the focus of what these podcasts are. Is, yeah, we're just sitting next to some really interesting people that we value their opinion because they're kind of in our shoes as business owners or bookkeepers or whatever it is. And yeah, just kind of keep that going beyond the once a year, conference that you see somebody at. So I think that's was kind of the spark for why we've, started doing this. So but no, I think
Yeah, I agree with you.
looking forward
It's
to what this becomes. We've been having practice sessions for feels like almost a year now. We're
uh
finally like recording it. This is live. We're doing it. 2025 is the doing it year. So I was telling Wes before I had this direct marketing idea. I've been like just piddling with it for a while, and finally like things went in the mail today. I was like, January, today's the last day of January. I was like, I'm
Yay.
not letting January pass without something. Like right now, there's 6 of the 250, but like something got done. Great plans, but like, all right, we're taking the action, we're doing this. So,
Yes. Those moments feel scary in your business when you're trying something new. Um,
mhm.
but usually it's like there's a payoff either way. Even if the
Yeah,
payoff is that you get nothing from it, well, okay, lesson learned. That was the payoff. Like I just
yeah,
I just learned a lesson and I won't do that one again.
yeah. If we're a year in and we have 2 subscribers and it's me and you to this
Yeah.
podcast, it's
But
like,
it's
okay, nobody wants to hear this, but
right, but it's about not getting stuck
yeah.
in that same lane of, you're always doing that same thing. And it brings up that quote in my mind of, if nothing changes, nothing changes,
Yeah.
right? If you want to grow a business or you want to explore different parts of a business, you got to try new things.
Hmm.
And that's a very difficult thing for, I think, a lot of us in this industry. We tend to be sort of like type A thinkers,
Yeah.
which is like it can definitely lean into perfectionism. And when you have that type of mindset, it can be very difficult to go off the rails and try something new because and it's also kind of against human nature
Hmm.
to just change in general if you feel like something is working.
Yeah.
But something could work much better. And that's where we
Yeah.
want to go. So ultimately, yeah, I felt the same way, Chip, whenever we first started talking. We sat down at the conferences and the training sessions, and I just felt like, hey, this is another guy who kind of has a similar mindset
Hmm.
as my own, which is that we're constantly keeping our head to the ground and trying to, be ready for whatever that little tidbit of information is that sparks that energy in us to go out and make something change in our business so that we are not just, slowly slipping and disappearing into the business ethers as so many businesses do. I mean, what's the statistics? What is it like? Is it 75%
Something.
of
Yeah.
business fail in like the first like year or two?
Right.
Um, it's something like that. It's a scary statistic. We can bring it up one of these days.
Yeah.
Um, but in order to not be that business, if you're in the same industry these other businesses and they are successful and you are not, I can tell you right now, it's because they're doing something different than you, and
Hmm.
you need to figure out what it is
Yeah.
so that you can either replicate it or evolve it to make it successful. So I think that is probably one of the big uh, philosophies of this podcast. If you listen to us and you're able to walk away with some nugget of insight that, made you think a little bit differently about something that you were doing in your business, then awesome. Kudos to us for bringing that information into your mind. And that's what we want to do at the end of the day. We just want people to be more successful in in their small businesses and feel confident about their numbers.
Hmm.
So hopefully we bring that value continuously. And I look forward to all of the fun guests that we're planning on having in the future. And yeah, can't wait to see where this thing goes.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's been fun. We'll do it again at least next month and maybe before. So we'll see how things go. But yeah, it was great seeing you. And yeah, until next time.
All righty.
Awesome.